Hello and welcome to my review of the Q500 4K edition from Yuneec. This is actually a re-review. I did a review before about the Q500 Plus, and there were a lot of things I really loved about the Q500, but there were a couple of things that worried me, and one in particular, and that was there was no UK support when I was making the video, and that for me made life very difficult. It meant I couldn't get to the bottom of any of the issues I was having or understand why the quad was behaving in a certain way. So that probably made me think twice about giving a wholehearted recommendation. And the second issue is to do with the range of the video transmission. And that's, if you go onto the forums, that's probably the thing that people most talk about. So I'll go on to talk about the second later on. But just to mention up front, for those of you in the UK, that the Yuneec have now opened an office just north of London. And I've had an opportunity to talk to them, and they've been very helpful, and they've helped me understand some of the issues and helped me improve some things. And it's made all the difference in terms of how I feel about the Q500. I mean, the first thing to say about the whole Q500 package is that everything you need comes in one box. You don't have to go and buy extra batteries, and you always need two for this sort of stuff. You get two batteries, it comes in a case. You don't need to add a tablet because the controller has a screen. And so that's always been one of the real selling points of the Q500. And also it's made it a really good value proposition as well. The other strong features about the quad is its ease of use and its stability. I mean, it basically flies straight out of the box. And even for a novice, they can, within a few minutes of getting used to the sticks and the orientation, can really fly it with some degree of confidence, provided they've chosen the right environment. And that means plenty of open space with at least 100 degrees view of the sky. And that's important to maintain the GPS lock. Just to give you an example, a couple of weeks ago, I was filming using a Yuneec GH4 camera and a different sort of drone. And I decided to bring this one along just as a backup in case anything went wrong. And as it turned out, something did go wrong, so I needed to use it. Now, I had never even taken this out of the box, and all I'd done the previous evening was charge the batteries. And I put on the props. I had to calibrate it because it was brand new. And I flew straight away, and I was able to take 20 minutes of video. And that's just an example of how little fuss there is with this. The other thing to mention is the prop size. It's a 10-inch prop, and that means that you get a smoother, more stable ride, particularly in windy conditions. And also it is actually quieter. Now there is a downside, of course, and the downside is obvious. It makes the quad bigger, and therefore can be a little bit more awkward to transport. Now, I've actually come up with a fantastic way of carrying the quad around, and I'll post a video hopefully a little bit after this one just to show you how I do it. Controller, which has always been my favorite piece of equipment in the package. It's been pretty much spot on from day one, and this is now the third version of the Q500. And I'll try and just give you a quick look, but bring it up close to the camera. You probably won't be able to see the picture, but I'll hopefully get an image later on in the review. But it's beautifully designed. It's light in the hand. It makes the whole flying experience very easy because you have everything just in the palm of your hand here. And particularly nice feature is what's called the rates mode. It's you can speed up or slow down the responsiveness of the sticks and the speed of the quad, and that's really helpful. If you're a beginner, for example, you might want to fly very slowly, or if you're taking aerial photography shots, you might want to fly slowly. And then when you want to actually fly quickly out to a position to start filming, you can turn it right up and it'll shoot right out. Now, a lot of quads have this in various forms, but this is just particularly easy to use, and I love it. I use it pretty much constantly. On the other side is a tilt for the camera, and that actually has improved since the last model. Before, tilt was a bit sudden and was hard to use the actual footage while it was tilting. But from a first look at the footage, I haven't edited it yet, but it looks to me to be a lot smoother. We have camera buttons for stills and for video. I don't use the stills, and there's even less reason to now, given that you've got a 4K option. But I've never had a great experience with them, but certainly I use the video all the time. Okay, so I'll take it for a little bit of a fly now, and I'll start off with the rates turned down, and that's the slider on the right, and it's marked turtle mode, just to help people. Take it for a bit of a fly. I'm actually flying in angle mode, which is the mode I normally fly in, or always fly in. Smart mode makes the quad move in the same direction as you move the sticks, but that's not the normal way of RC flying, so it's better just to learn the normal way, because you might need it if you lose GPS or something like that anyway, so unless you're a very occasional user, I definitely learn that. So I'll just take some footage now, flying out over the cove. So what I'm going to do now is lower it a bit, turn it around, and I'll just give you an idea of the rate of climb with the rates turned right up to what Yuneec call rabbit mode. Right, so I'll turn it right up now, and we'll go. So that isn't bad really. I mean, it's not a rocket ship, but it's pretty good for what this is. Okay, now I'll just bring it back into shot, and I'll take it for another fly, this time just in a circle in, see it's coming down quite quickly. I'll take it for another circle turned up to rabbit mode to give you a better idea of the speed it can go at. It's now up at full throttle. I'm just desperately trying to keep it in shot, so hopefully, and I'll just fly it over the camera. Whoa. It really couldn't be easier to fly than this. And it's, I think it makes it ideal for a beginner, and it's been a strength. I mean, this is the third version now, and that's been sort of the hallmark of the Q500. I mentioned at the beginning the issue about video reception, which is probably the thing that most gets attention with the Q500. For aerial photography, you don't need to fly long distance, so that's not an issue. But some people complain about how short the distance is. And the reason for that, I've discovered, is twofold. I mean, first of all, it depends how you measure it. When the quad is facing away from you, you can actually get very good reception, but when it's facing towards you, because of the design, you get much poorer reception. So that explains part of the variability. But the other thing I didn't know about until recently, and that is, it's to do with EU regulations. So people in Europe can only use a 25 milliwatt video transmitter, where people outside Europe can use 100 milliwatt, at least in the US anyway. And what that means is that, if my memory serves me correctly, if you've got 4 times the power, you get about twice the range. And the interesting thing about that is all the hardware is the same, regardless of where you get your quads. So the limitation is built into the firmware. And if you go onto Yuneec's website, you'll see that there's 2 sets of firmware. There's one for Europe and one for non-Europe. Now, I don't know what other differences there are between the 2 sets of firmware, but certainly one of the things the European one does is limit the power of the video transmitter. Also, it was pointed out to me that it depends, the range can also depend on how you hold the transmitter. So if you're flying a fair distance, you might like to be a bit more conscious of keeping it at an angle and not having it flat or pointing straight up, and that will help reception. But probably the biggest change for me, and that from the previous version, is the speed at which it now reconnects. Where before it basically, I lost it until I came right home. Now when you do lose it and move back into range, it does connect very quickly, and that has meant I can often continue with the videoing, and that was my big frustration before. So that's probably more important than the other issues, actually, because I could live with quite short range. It's the randomness of it that was bothering me. Yeah, so all in all, I'm a lot happier I think the 4K is quite a step forward. I think it's a much bigger step forward than the previous Plus was over the original, and certainly a lot of the issues I had with the Q500 Plus have been addressed or at least explained. So overall, I'll say that, whereas before I kind of gave it a sort of a qualified thumbs up, provided you don't mind, you're not in the UK and you don't mind the video issue, where now we've got UK support and certainly the video issue can be solved, or at least addressed. I'm much happier. So, yeah, the other thing that's coming up is I'm quite excited about the new DJI Inspire Pro with the micro four thirds lens and the X5 gimbal. And I'll be doing a review of that once it arrives. So stay tuned, and with that I'll say it's goodbye from Devon, and thanks very much for watching.